Farm4Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm4Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm4Profit Podcast.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit Podcast. This is Tanner here, and apparently the only one that knows how to run a camera in this studio. Oh.
That's fine. Hey, I'm just surprised you let me touch it. I'm not supposed to touch the technology. That's what I was told.
No, you're not supposed to touch it when we put it away, because then I don't know where it went.
Oh, right.
Oh, Dave's here, too.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, hi.
You know, people watch us on YouTube. They can see that. We don't even have to introduce ourselves.
Dave actually had a land conference today, and he skipped it.
Yeah?
I know. That's dedication to the brand.
I mean, man, you go to every land conference.
I know.
Where people texting you.
But Tanner said we had really important guests today, so I
We
needed,
do. We got a guest in
needed to be
studio.
here.
Drove 7 hours to be here.
And I was like, I can't let him down.
That is not true. They drove way more than 7 hours to get here.
Well, yeah, they went a roundabout way.
Roundabout way.
As the crow flies, 7 hours.
They almost went. They could have gone to the coast and back
Almost.
Could have.
from when they left to
But
when
they're
they
used
got
to
here.
it. They live life on the road, man.
Got wheels or wings, we'll travel.
Wheels and wings. We're going to have to
There it
take
is.
advantage of those wings.
There it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I already like the accent. I can't believe that he's from Indiana because it almost sounds like he's got a little southern drawl in there.
Oh, my.
And the name is second to none. We've got the EVP of AgXplore here, Gunny.
Gunny, right?
Welcome to
Thank
the
you,
podcast.
guys.
Welcome.
Gunther Kreps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you say on his business card. He
Yeah.
says call him Gunny.
Yeah. What's EVP?
Gunny, the AgXplore nerd. What'd you
Geek,
call it?
geek, please. There's a difference.
Okay.
I'm
Geek.
the geek.
Oh, geek
Okay.
is, I'm
So-
smarter.
That's right. He doesn't have glasses. Nerds have
Yeah,
glasses.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, Tim's our nerd. So that's,
All right, I'm sending Tim that audio clip.
So we got to go back. I'm always interested when someone gets into an executive position like yours. Like, what was your path to get there?
yeah, so a little bit about me. So I grew up on a farm in northern Indiana, corn, soybeans, wheat, alfalfa. We had some cattle. We had some sheep. Don't ask me why. We had sheep. We had lots of sheep. But I went to Purdue, being the youngest of three boys.
Okay.
Like Dave, my middle brother's an auctioneer like you. But youngest three boys, I didn't have the opportunity to go home and farm. So I had to go to Purdue and figure it out, which is crazy because I grew up an IU fan. So I was the black sheep of the family, became a Boilermaker, and got into ag retail. Spent 7 years in direct ag retail, managed a branch most of that time for about 4.5 years. And then I was an area manager for Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky for a company called Love and Products. Then I spent some time as their global plant nutrition manager out in Colorado for a couple of years. And then I managed a little over $500 million in crop protection business for CPS back in the day. And then one day I was about to turn 40, and I said, you know what? Living in Illinois, I just want to move home. And I had one of those moments that I walked outside the hotel, made a phone call, and made a decision. And the next week, the owner of AgXplore called me and was looking for a sales manager at the time. And I ended up joining AgXplore back in 2018 as the national sales manager. I'm not good at herding cats, so people management's not my thing. I'm a geek for products and technology. And I think you'll learn that about me today when we get into talking.
Yeah.
But it evolved into this role today. Tim and I are partners on some of the manufacturing. Tim is the sole owner of AgXplore and giving us the opportunity to really take this to the next level and challenge the status quo in agriculture. And I tell people, guys, that I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I love my job. I love everything about my job. I love doing this. I love meeting people and farmers from around the world, so around the country. So it's been great. It's been pretty blessed.
That's awesome. I got the honor of going to lunch with them before this and learned a lot about it. I want to ask you, these headsets are not bothering your head, are they?
They don't. So yes, I have 2 wires in my head that Mayo Clinic put in. It's because I'm messed up in the head. You'll figure that out as well. So I am one guy in life you've met whose wires are truly crossed. They come out my back. They go like this. They cross like this and go in the back of my head. So my wires are legitimately crossed.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. So he has to have, what is it called, like electromagnetic?
it's a neurostimulation.
Yeah.
You have a constant tingle in the back of my head. It feels quite nice. I'd want it even if I didn't have a messed up head. So
I mean, does the wife ever like find like the Bluetooth part and like shock you for doing something wrong? Or,
So look, a year ago I had my generator replaced, and it's literally wireless now. So I hide that remote like crazy. So my wife and my daughter will never find this. So
I have so many questions. You literally have a generator.
I do. I'm a bionic guy. It's in my lower back. Wires run up my. It's all implanted.
So is it propane fired or what are we?
So it's a pull start. But
He's wound up like the old toys. Just twist the key in the back.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
I can turn myself up. I can turn myself down. I can turn myself off. I can turn myself on. It's messed up, guys. So.
That sounds
It's just
kinda
like Corey.
So, having crossed wires, is that what made you want to challenge the process in agriculture?
That's part of it. That's part of just my nature. I love challenging the status quo and what we do. The way we farm today, guys, I remember back in the day when my dad farmed, we put all of our anhydrous ammonia on in the fall. We didn't think about nitrogen until the next fall. And we've learned over the last 30 plus years that the best way to manage nitrogen is to split apply it, right? Before you ever invest in a stabilizer and management tool, split apply that nitrogen. It's the first thing you should do, right? Best practices. The fertilizer management from phosphorus, and today I'll probably touch on 2 other nutrients that we got to do a better job on, and split applying and thinking differently. And look, what we're about is not spending more money on an acre. Right? It's reinvesting in that acre and getting a better ROI.
So, Gunny, just for our listeners that are coming in on the conversation that don't know what AgXplore is, give us just the 30,000-foot view.
And by the way, it's AgXplore.
Yep.
Because I didn't get that right the first time when I sent that out. We're not exploring the Wild West. We're exploring.
Exploring it. So the X is the big deal. So we're morphing into just calling ourselves AgX, right? So our future will be just AgX, right? Which AgX was, I think, kind of cool.
You were way ahead of Twitter.
Yeah, we were here first. Listen.
So, not to be confused with Onyx, AgX.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's right. So
We're going to become F4PX. That'll be our naughty after dark shows.
But you used to hashtag ag Twitter when you're on Twitter to get everyone in ag Twitter. Now it's AgX. That's what you hashtag. So you were ahead of them.
Hey, look, when hashtag first came out, I'm like, why does everybody put the pound sign in front of everything?
I made fun of it for crying. I was like, why is everyone pounding things? Yes.
Hey, we pound a lot of beer on this show.
Sometimes water today. I got to go plant after this.
Trust me, we'll be pounding beer by the time we're done. Trust me, guys. So.
All right, back to Dave's question.
Yeah, so Dave, to answer your question, AgX or AgXplore was started in 1999, so we're 25 years old. We're independently held. There's no outside investment. Tim Gutwein is the owner. Like I said, we're partners in some of the manufacturing. But we're in 3 shelves. So we have an adjuvant portfolio that's got everything from the oils and the surfactants and the methylated seed oils and AMS replacements and all that good stuff. Then we have a fertilizer management, and our fertilizer management is different than most of the industry. Most of the industry works a lot of chemistry. Ours is more biologically friendly type stuff. Like, for example, our nitrogen management piece, we don't call it a stabilizer because to be a stabilizer, you have to impede biological processes. Right. We don't. We actually work with biology, and we're just producing a 4-year study we did with the USDA that shows that we keep nitrogen in the soil profile longer throughout the season for the roots to grab hold of, and we don't have an impact on biology by doing this. We actually become a food source for biology. So we also have stuff for phosphorus management and potassium management. But our fastest growing is our segment in plant nutrition, and that's where I'm truly the geek at. Like, this has been my game for a lot of years. I love the biostimulants, the organic acids, and the understanding of how they're extracted, how you make them potent, how you make them efficient, how you get ROI, right? So, and I love nothing more than education. So AgX is our biggest goal is to be the best at education. Right? We want people to understand agronomy and understand the why and what we do and what we recommend in farming. Right? A lot of times we just take the advice of an agronomist or our local retail guy and like they're all great at what they do. But as farmers, guys, we need to ask ourselves, why do we do this? What's the point? Biostimulants, for example. You take a seaweed compound, everybody's got one. But not all seaweed compounds are created equal, and they're not meant to go in every application. I was telling you, Corey, at lunch that guys that they'll come out and they say, Dave, we got this product. It's a biostimulant. We want you in your starter fertilizer and your first post pass with your chemistry and your that herbicide pass. We want it in your late season fungicide pass. And while you're at it, go ahead and impregnate it on your dry fertilizer. So
because we're gonna make money every time.
And that's crap, boys. That's crap. There's no one biostimulant that works in every single application, and that's what I focused most of my career on, is just figuring out what goes where, right? And with what nutrients.
Right.
Like, for example, what goes with sulfur is different than what you would put with boron to help it function inside of a plant. So
we should start right there and just go, what the heck is a biostimulant?
Well, right,
because these are words that the industry throws around.
Yep.
And we even find ourselves going, oh, it's a, I don't know, biostimulant. It's a, I can't remember some of the
bugs in a jug.
Yeah, just
bugs in a jug. Yeah, so
Yeah.
those are
Snake
biologicals.
oil,
yeah. It's just like stuff gets thrown around. So like, what makes it a biostimulant?
Because we
over
haven't
microbes?
talked, our listeners have not heard anything from us on agronomy since December 18th.
Yeah.
So we're literally 6 months since the last time we talked anything agronomic. So
Yeah.
we're overdue.
Yeah.
But what is a biostimulant?
Okay, so first let me explain biologicals. Biologicals are truly bugs in a jug, right? Those are the Bacillus megaterium, the Subtilis, all those type things that we've learned a lot in the last 5 years on. We'll learn a lot more in the next 5 years
Right.
when it comes
Okay.
to biology. Biostimulants are a class of products, and they're not plant growth regulators like IBA, kynotin, and gib acid. What it is, it's more of the seaweed, the kelp compounds, the amino acids, the protein hydrolysates that help a plant function. So what I mean by that is one thing that we've branded at AgXplore is the fifth R. So have you guys have all been and listened to Iowa State or U of I or Purdue University, go to one of their CCA meetings and they talk about the 4 R's, right? Right product, right rate, right time, right place. And it's the same stuff that I've heard for 25 years, right? I think, and I believe at AgX that there's a 5th R, and that 5th R is the right technology to make your fertilizer work well, whether it's placed in the soil to make it available or keep it available to the crop, or 2, once it's inside that plant, how does it function? How does it get mobilized to where it's going? How can you put a supporting cast of biostimulants to help it? Like sulfur, for example. There are biostimulants that help support the chlorophyll production inside a plant, which is one of sulfur's main uses, main functions inside of a plant. So the biostimulants are that plethora of ingredients that everybody's got one, but not all of them are created equal.
Right.
Something that we do is we brand it in a platform. Like for us, the ones that we put inside of plants is intake. Have nutrition taken to the right place inside of a plant, help its mobility and its function. We have multiple technologies that fall underneath that category.
Right.
It's not just a brand. It's not just one piece.
Yeah, you don't have just intake.
Yep. And it's like the other thing that biostimulants are that they classify as the organic acids. So you guys have seen the black acids, the humic acids, right?
Yep.
So is it okay if I tell my coffee story?
Yeah, 100%.
So are you guys coffee drinkers?
Yeah.
So
Dave's not.
You know not.
Red Bull.
I'm the only one with a coffee cup, though.
Yeah. So
Chocolate.
Dave, let's assume you are. So are you married, Dave? Mm-hmm. So I've been married 87 years, and this is how it goes in my plant.
Me too.
House. So. If
Wait,
you
how
think
did you get 87 years?
I just wanted to see if you were paying attention.
I've been married so long I don't look both ways when I cross the road.
I figured it was going to be one of those things. Well, I took all the extra thoughts and everything she talked to. I figured there was going to be a better joke in there. Just
So my wife, Andrea, when she gets up in the morning, she's the first one to the coffee pot. And if you think about organic acids and how we extract them, so they're thick, they're black, they plug orifices and screens and planters and tick us off, and we got to get out and clean that stuff, right, and slow us down from planting. Traditional extracted organic acids, what they do is they take leonardite, top layer of coal, and imagine that as being coffee. Take 3 scoops of coffee, put it in your filter, you run water through it, and what we extract off that is the coffee we drink. Mm-hmm. It's a simplified process of what happens when we use traditional extracted biostimulants from the organic acids. We put it in a filter, we run KOH or potassium hydroxide through it, and then we extract it. But it's inevitable. In my cup at my house, I get those grinds, right? That's left in at the bottom of it, because my wife. It never happens in my wife's cup.
Yeah.
It's always my cup, and you know what I'm talking, Andrew, if you're watching this. So, but it's the same thing in farming, right? We always get those grinds in there, and that's the last thing we don't want to have, right? So, what we've done is we've worked with technologies that are biochemically extracted, and what I mean by that is we take those coffee grinds, use an enzyme package, we digest them, and we put them in that pot. And if you can go back to your coffee, if you digested 3 scoops of coffee and put it all in that pot, it'd be so potent you couldn't drink it. That's the same effect that we get in ag. It keeps the molecule intact. It makes it incredibly potent. You can use a lower rate and get more effective results out of it, more consistent results out of it.
Yep. Yeah, so. I got to learn that at lunch. It's pretty cool.
Holy smokes. I don't know how you had any time to eat.
Yeah, we did.
You just sit
It took
there.
forever to eat, I guess, because we were talking so much. But that's all right. It was good food too. I'll tell you that. But what we've learned a lot through the years on the show is that, I mean, obviously here in Iowa we have a very rich, soil. We have a lot of nutrients, and normally maybe more isn't more, right? For fertilizer, there's a lot that's not available to the plant, to make it more available. Is that you guys I'm assuming you have some products to help with that?
We do. We have for our guys that run starter fertilizer, where it's in for 2x2, we have a product that goes with that starter fertilizer to help it become more available and take phosphate and make it hydrogen phosphate or keep it hydrogen phosphate. And then also release some of that phosphorus that it comes in contact with in that zone of concentration. That's what we call our nutrient enhancement technology, so our net technology. So we have pieces for that. And guys, I'll throw this out to you. There's a lot of companies that are in my space, that are in AgX's space, that come out and say, "Hey, look, back off your pounds in the ground and just use this." I'm not a proponent of that. I still think we need fertilizer. We got to have that replacement out there.
Yep.
What I'm looking for and what we focus on AgX is taking yields to the next level, adding that incremental yield, and giving that the most profitable bushels on your farm. Right? When I break down economics, Tanner, I think you're really analytical. Mm-hmm. So I am too. I'm a geek on analytics. I love that stuff. I always put the stuff that we have. You can farm without AgX. You can, right? But when you're looking for that incremental yield and your lowest cost of production, your highest margin yield per bushel, per unit of production, that's what we do. That's what we strive to do. We strive to take your acre and make more out of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
we've tried some of that on our farm of going with less, and I'm not going to say we lost, but it just kind of drove me back to all right, that's not the limiting factor on the farm. Yep. Back to the fundamentals, go back to old basketball practice or baseball practice back in the day, dribble the ball, don't turn it over, jump stop, get back to that. And then once you get that back down, if you're not doing those steps, you probably even shouldn't be looking into the extras.
So
because you're going to be disappointed.
That's not a bad scenario, or at least a comparison, because when did we start, Gunny, really diving into the science behind the fertility in our soils? I mean, it's been a study, but all of a sudden I feel like in the last 5 years, all of a sudden everybody has a product to make it better.
The last 5 years,
why
people
is
really
bio so big nowadays? Right. That's exactly my question I wrote.
It's the big sexy word in Successful Farming and Farm Journal, the magazines that we get at our houses. That we see biologicals or soil health, and
nobody reads those anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
They
We
talk
talk
about
that once too.
They watch this, so it has emerged a lot. We found so many technologies, and guys, I'll be honest with you. I work with technology companies around the globe, and I literally travel the globe, and I've been in some of the most impressive research facilities you've ever seen in your life. There is so much technology out there. I've got another 20 years to work, maybe, Lord willing. I'll never get through them all. There's no way I can get through them all. So, which is great. Gives us hope for the future and being able to produce more.
I've always wondered if we should do a test plot.
The Farm4Profit test plot.
That puts every product on. You put everything that you possibly could put on.
If they
because if they all offer 2 bushel to the acre, we should have 1,000 bushel corn.
Call it the 1,000 bushel test plot.
Yes. Yeah. And you just start same hybrid,
kill
right?
It.
You start with the same hybrid on one side of it, and every 4 or 6 rows you add a product, and then you add another product.
Oh boy,
and then you add
that would be
product.
huge. It'd be the whole county.
It would take you a year to plant it.
Yeah.
So guys, remember how I said I was big on education?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We make farming way too complicated, way too complicated. We like to break down farming into 5 phases. So I'll ask you guys this question, get your guys' response. And Corey, you farm.
Yep.
When does next year's crop start?
Well, yesterday.
Yesterday? So maybe it's the day that the combine leaves the field?
Right.
Right? So
but I look at it as from a business standpoint. I've already sold corn for 25. December 25.
All right. The marketing piece starts that time.
So I have to start thinking about it. I have to start looking at inputs and things of that nature.
Seed salesmen start calling June before the combine even gets
to
the
that's right. Technically, our seed sales don't start until September 1. But there is the relationship part of it and all that. So it's 26 has started already.
So, guys, from an agronomic standpoint, I contend that most of our next year's crop starts when the combine leaves the field.
Right.
Right. So, when you're shelling corn, you're sitting there watching podcasts, you're watching you guys on TV, and the farmers are thinking, okay, what's the next thing I got to do this? I got to work ground. I got to put I got to do soil samples, put dry fertilizer on. I call that a foundation phase, and we break farming down into 5 phases. And that first phase is that combine to planter, everything that we're going to do, that foundation phase. After that, we talk about establishment, the importance of getting that crop up and getting it going. And then I go in and I call the next phase the architecture phase. The industry calls it a vegetative stage, which I think is generic. I want plant structure.
Vegetative, I think, a dead, not able to. You get fed through a tube.
Vegetable.
But I caught your attention when I said architecture phase, didn't I?
Oh yeah, well, both of them did.
So plant structure. Let me ask you this, guys. What's a leaf? What is a leaf?
It's a solar panel.
It's a solar panel. Get that everywhere.
Yeah.
What else is a leaf?
Just a bunch of cells, isn't it?
Well, it's made up of cells, right? So think about this. Leaves are solar panels. They collect sunlight. It turns, for a daytime reaction, a nighttime reaction, it turns it into acetate and plants natural energy molecule. It's great. It is also a fuel tank. So, Corey, on your farm, do you just have a 100-gallon diesel fuel tank on your farm?
No.
The answer is no, right?
Oh, he's got the lightning stream.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah,
The
that too.
reason you don't is because you need fuel when it's go time. And a plant's the same way. It's this fuel tank for nutrients and energy when it gets into production, which is reproduction, which is the next phase. It's got to have that fuel there, right, and get it going. It's also a canopy, right? A canopy to lower canopy temperature, soil temperature, retain soil moisture. Like, there's a lot to leaf structure. So when I talk about that third phase of architecture phase, I want a physical plant structure. Big girthy stalk on corn, big fat leaves.
Right.
And
Size matters.
Yeah, size matters, and you got to equip them with the right equipment, right? You can make a big fat leaf, but if you don't have the right micronutrients in there, like copper, iron, manganese, zinc, molybdenum, boron, to help accept sunlight,
But you could have a
congratulations.
big straw, but you got to have the fluid behind it, or
That's
the
right.
stuff behind it. Even if he had a big old hose for
Corey's got a big hose.
for his fuel tank, it still have to be full of fuel.
That's right. And you need those micronutrients. So when retailers come out and talk to you farmers that are watching this, and they're talking about micronutrients, and they come out with something, you look at it and you think it's a shotgun approach to just feeding a deficiency. It's not. It's designed. Those products are designed for photosynthesis, right? Accepting that sunlight and physically doing something with it. So
we got the foundation, we got establishment, and then we've got architecture, which is not the vegetative state.
right, not vegetative state.
It's vegetative growth, but we don't want to call it that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we go into reproduction. And guys,
That's the best.
we've
my.
it is the funnest stage.
Ding dong.
So, when you think about, you've done everything right. You've done those first stages right, and then, take soybeans. They're extremely visual. Corey, you've gone out in August, and you saw that it's a top crop.
Oh, yeah.
That cluster of soybeans
Yeah.
at the top. And then Mother Nature does what in August? She does two
Quits
things.
raining.
Quits raining, gets hot and dry,
Yeah.
right? And then it kicks off that yield, those fruiting sites.
Yep.
And those pods disappear, and you're like,
Yep.
there goes that last 5-6 bushel.
Yeah.
Well, something that I've worked with since about 2016 is bringing a late season PGR on to help force that plant into keeping its fruiting sites.
I've rode the bull at the PGR. Or
So
PBR.
So here's
One time I did that.
yeah. So we
Keyword on once.
That's why his wires are crossed.
Yeah.
They were straight up until the PBR.
You want to know why I messed up in the head? I can tell you.
so we got to stop there and say what the heck is a PGR?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to hear the story about the PBR.
The PPR.
All right, what's PGR?
So guys, they're plant growth regulators. Why we call what I'm referring to as PGRs, I don't know. Regulators, I think about stunting growth, like Palisade. We're going to stunt that wheat and pour the nitrogen to it, fill that grain out. Really, in my space, they're hormones. They tell a plant how to function, right? And what to do, whether it's to spend its energy on roots and shoots or to retain fruiting sites. Like, for example, that architecture phase, we launched a product called Architech, which was the first ever EPA registered foliar plant nutrition product in U.S. history. Launched it last year, which is a big deal to us.
That's a big deal.
It's a foliar plant nutrition with micronutrients to support photosynthesis plus GABA, which comes from the pharmaceutical world. And that tells a plant to drop stress, right? When it gets hot and dry. And my part of Indiana the last 2 years, I've been really stressed, like during the growing season. And, corn turns to pineapples. Soybeans turn over and get that silver sheen.
Yep.
There's technologies, these hormones that you can put out there to prevent that from happening, or at least delay that response for an extended period of time. And that's what Architect's designed to do. And this late season one that we have is Onward Max. It's a concentrated version of our original Onward that we launched in 2020. But it's kyneton, choline chloride, which is not a salt. It's a vitamin derivative, and a the GABA component. And what that does is it tells that plant, drop that ethylene glycol, that stress hormone, continue to photosynthesize, and then translocate nutrients source to sink, which that source to sink process is coming out of leaf tissue, out of that stalk, shove it into that fruiting site, that kernel, that head of wheat, that pod of soybeans, that bowl of cotton for you guys that are in the South. So that is our biggest product today, is the Onward Max. Architect will overtake that.
So I've heard a whole lot about products at
Yeah.
AgX, but I'm a dumb farmer and I only just understood about half of what you just said.
Yep.
So is there somebody to help me with this? Like, is that part of what your company is?
So one is, you can reach out to us through our website, and we actually will sit down with farmers. We always keep the retailer involved, right? Because we go through the retail network. But our biggest thing that we want to do is we want to train retailers and help them out. And for the retailers that watch this guy's got a lot on their plate. They got seed, fertilizer, chemical, application, credit, accounts receivable, all that stuff that they got to worry about.
And each one of those have their own mental checklist. If you watch my mental
That's right.
You
checklist
do.
video,
Yeah, you do.
there's like
And you
100
still didn't follow it because
steps to that.
because
Yeah,
of the
I
old
know.
auto swap.
Exactly.
There.
We need experts.
Yeah.
I've been trying to partner with experts.
So Dave, we write these documents called 330X documents for our retailers. And what it is a 3-second explanation, a 30-second explanation. Then the X piece of it is the agronomics to build your own story. And it's the why. It's the why behind a product, which I think we miss in ag. I think a lot of us just go and say, what kind of data, what kind of yields it give me? Right. Everything has a function in this game that we play of farming, right? So if I can make it do its thing, you got to rely on other things throughout the 5 phases, and that last 5 phases is the 5th phase is maturity. We have to rely on them to do their parts. Yeah, I heard it said best last week. A gentleman said, it's like football game. These products that we have, they're like a football game, and it's not, the score is an outcome, it's not a benefit. And he talked about if the right guard makes a block and allows the running back to make a 3rd and 7, make a first down, and keep that drive going, that's what our game is. That's what our products do. And it keeps that drive going to get that yield and cross that finish line at the end of the day. Everything has a purpose.
Yep.
So
Kicks the can down the road. You could fumble it the next play if you don't make the right play.
You can.
But
that's why I guess because we talk about managing a crop. Like, I'm not a big fan of when people say, give me one thing to make 20 bushel. That's crap. There's no such thing. To me, if you manage a crop throughout those 5 phases, your consistent ROI is there. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. So I'm excited for it. If you can tell, I'm a little bit passionate about it.
yeah.
So we've got through 4 of the 5. What's the 5th phase?
Yeah, so the last one is the maturity phase, which I want to tell you a story on this. So back in my mid-20s, so 20 years ago, I remember when we had the Asian soybean rust scare, and all of us retailers loaded up every fungicide we could possibly get our hands on. We brought it in by the truckloads. And then for the most part, it didn't hit, at least not in my part of the world in the Midwest. But what that did is it taught us that, hey, fungicides do pay, right? As in general, consistently, they do have a good ROI. And I remember when companies like BASF came out and said, hey, we need you to make an extra application. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
I've been spraying all year. I'm tired. I want to go to the lake. My wife wants to see me. Like, I need to go home. But all of a sudden, that came part of our practice. And I'll tell you guys, I'm going to challenge the status quo on farming. We need one more pass specifically on soybeans. We give up on soybeans too early. As an industry, we were taught to come out on soybeans basically at R3. At R3, we may already have infection and never have seen it, right? And we don't see it until later. But what we do is we try to tell ourselves, well, let's push this fungicide application as late as we can. That way we get the longevity out of it. Well, we may have already had an infection and just not seen it. And that's hurting us. Sean Castile from Purdue University Dr. Castile put out a paper in 2019 said we give up on soybeans too early.
Right.
I switched in 2020 and went to a 2-pass program and did my fungicide, insecticide, and my foliar potassium. Late season potassium is specifically potassium acetate, is excellent on soybeans. And I made that application at R2, and I made another application between R4.5 and R5, close to full maturity.
Yeah.
And I came back and fed more late season potassium acetate. And guys, I had the first cooperator that did of his 1,500 acres of beans, did 500 acres. On that 500 acres, he had 62-pound test weight on soybeans. I have never witnessed 62-pound test weight on soybeans.
Wow, those are like BBs, like not tiny. It's in
like
lead
weights, like lead weights. They're fishing weights, right? it was so apparent that the elevator called the cooperator and said, "Hey, what did you do to these beans? We thought our meter was broken. We literally went to another."
I thought they were going to say they did corn or something.
Right. So, but now I'm not saying that you'll get 62-pound test weight year in, year out, but I have witnessed the really upper 50s and the lower 60s consistently going to that 2-pass program. But again, it's back to, do you have the means to do it? Now, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about, do you have the machinery, the equipment, the manpower, the time to physically go make 2 passes?
Well, and that late pass, that R5 pass can be bad. I mean, beans are tangled pretty good and all that. Like, so are you utilizing like a drone?
Yeah, so
for the stuff?
I will drone mine.
Yep.
I'm not going to drive over them again. Not then. So that's what when I say the means, do you have that equipment? A lot of guys will fly it on. So it's one of those that, I don't want to drag a sprayer through it late again.
Right.
Now, the guys that have got the tram lines, obviously that's an easy call.
Right.
But
Right.
but it's I'm telling you, for the farmers that are watching this, I encourage you, if you've not done this, find a foliar potassium acetate. For us, it's our XR5 KSB. It's got the biostimulants in it, and it's specific to driving potassium inside of a plant. And it also has sulfur, which is also needed late in season. And like I said earlier, there's two nutrients that we got to do a better job on in agriculture. It's potassium and sulfur, right? And it's not about spending more, guys. It's not about going out and increasing your fertilizer budget. It's about reallocating those dollars and where you put it and when you put it on. So with the right technology and the right form.
So what do you think it's attributing? I mean, if you're spraying that late, like you said, it's almost full maturity. Like you're almost like not going to be able to help. Right? Like, what do you think is contributing to that?
It's source to sink movement. So think about what the plant's physically going through. And if you've ever seen the demand curve on potassium, late season, it's going to utilize that potassium to have a strong draw and utilize that potassium.
Yep.
And that's all going source to sink out of the leaf and into that pod. So what we're doing is we're taking potassium acetate, which is 4.5 times more efficient than any form of foliar potassium, and putting that on a plant. And I put biostimulants with it to help that mobility and that translocation of going from that leaf into that pod. It does not make any more beans. It takes your beans and makes them bigger, and that's where you get yield and test weight from. And let's face it, guys, we haul weight, right? We don't haul volume, we haul weight. We want heavy crops.
Yeah.
Takes your beans and makes them bigger.
Or heavier, right? It doesn't need to be physically bigger. It just needs to be heavier, more dense, like me.
Yes.
Dense.
No comment.
No comments.
I got very good test weight.
Very good test weight.
Again, no comment.
There's our next T-shirt.
We're gonna start. We'll start up the debate.
I got a good test weight.
Yeah. We'll start up the debate between test weight and bushels.
Yes.
Again, whatever. That's a.
Or we could do the phantom yield loss of harvesting corn.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's help our listeners dive into this year agronomically. So just released drought monitors. We've got a whole bunch of rain here in the Midwest,
And out east.
Correct. This is some of the least areas of drought that we have seen in a long time, and it's really been reversed in the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
Areas of Kansas, middle southern areas, still extremely dry, but for the most part, we're going to go into this growing season with ample subsoil moisture in the Midwest to get us a long ways.
Yep.
That could cause some other issues. So what do you think are some concerns that you could see coming to fruition during this growing year?
So, guys, I want you to think about how a plant takes up nutrients from the soil. Plants drink nutrients, okay? So they have to have moisture there, right? So right now we're in good shape. But also think about, like, soybeans if we sit in waterlogged soils. If a soybean, it has to rain and drain. If I had a straw, I'd put it in here, and I would do like I did when I was a kid. I'd put my finger on it, pull it up, and I'd release it. And if you think about that water rushing down, it sucks down air. So when you think about the air that we breathe, 78% of what we breathe is atmospheric nitrogen. Mm-hmm. So the nodules, they have to have that raining and draining to suck that down in to be able the nodules to fixate that nitrogen. That's a concern that I have that most people don't think about if we're in waterlogged soils or we've been in dry soils.
Is this why tile helps so much?
Tile's a huge benefit
because it would drain it away faster. We still want the wetness, so we want the drink, but we want it to drain it away.
It's a big benefit that most of us don't think about.
Okay.
Well, tile will only take what the soil can't hold.
Correct.
Correct.
So you're not making it drier.
Gotcha.
Yep.
But it does help that flow, right? It does help that flow. Yep. So that's one. The other one is if we do turn off dry like we've been the last 2 years, One application that I made last year was an audible. I made a V10 application on corn to make a foliar potassium acetate application. Because if you think about the demand of when corn takes it up and when corn needs it, corn loves nutrition in front of a demand. So I went ahead and put one on during that late architectural stage. So that way when it got in reproduction, it would have it. Guys, the best corn crop that my farm had ever had has been in the mid-220s. Last year I did my full program, even with the 2 droughts that I had in Indiana, that early season one and that late season one right after pollination. Corn went 263. Now I'm not blessed like you Iowa guys, but we made 263 last year, and I'm not ashamed of that.
I get a question on that. You mentioned drought 3 times. So I'm just learning grain marketing. And the grain marketer guy said to me the other day, so correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, he said...
But you're probably not.
I'm probably not. Yeah. That's what my coffee cup says.
Yeah.
But he said, all the old guys that come in, they're so worried about drought because it was an old guy thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that oh my God, there's weather deals that are going to make the markets go up, the markets go down, and he said, in his opinion, drought has no effect anymore. Only the wet years have effect anymore as a significant weather event.
I think he's talking regionally.
Because he's saying that we have such good genetics in that we have hybrids now, and all the hybrids are there. So you just said you had drought, but you had the most successful year. Now it could be attributed to a bunch of different things, probably AgX. But moreover, do you think there is a relation to that we have gotten so good with our technology that our corn or our beans, our seed rather, eliminates drought?
So I love this question. I had a gentleman up in North Dakota one time tell me, he said, well, Mother Nature dictates everything that we can have as an outcome. I'm like, does she really? 25 years ago, I probably agreed with you. Probably had a stronger influence.
The old guys.
The last 2 years, I've had two records in Indiana on my farm. And there's a slide that the USDA put out in conjunction with Purdue. It's a slide of inflection points on corn yields. And it starts with average corn yield starting in 1866 all the way through 2021.
Yeah.
Now, I have no idea how they got corn yields in 18. I don't think they had corn monitors, yield monitors in the horse and buggies. But it shows the things that have made significant impacts in agriculture on the outcome, the yield. In about 1936, 1866, 1936, we had a pretty flat line, 25, 28 bushels. Then all of a sudden something happened, and it was the hybridization of corn. And we saw an inflection point, and all of a sudden we started yields going up. And then in 1956, we had the adoption of two things that, Corey, that you use every year. One being synthetic fertilizer, and two being chemistry, right? The herbicides. Yep. We don't go out and hoe weeds, and we don't have the manpower for that anymore. Right. We spray them, we kill them, we keep them clean. And we saw yields going like this. And that trajectory from 1966 all the way through 2021 has been a flat line trajectory. And I do believe that because of genetics and traits in the late 90s going in the early 2000s that we've continued that trajectory, but I've also witnessed something different. I firmly believe that, guys, these seed genetics from corn and soybeans, cotton, whatever it is, have done such a good job. Our next inflection point is how we manage crops. Right, doing the same thing that our dads and grandpas did, and trying to get away and get different results. It's like the definition of insanity. Right? We have to do something different. We have too big of an investment on a per acre basis. If we can manage these crops, I'm starting to see that curve. I've witnessed this curve is steepening again, and we're at another inflection point in agriculture because we've learned so much about what we can and cannot do.
Right.
There's a handful of questions that I ask farmers. Tell me about your pH, tell me about your CEC, what's your base saturations, simple things. And then I explain them back what those are. Like, you know what a CEC site is, Corey?
Yeah.
You know what that is? It's a parking lot. Think about CECs like a parking lot. If you got a low CEC, something sub 10, it's like a TSC parking lot, cars and trucks, right? Small parking lot, doesn't hold very many.
Yep.
If you go to something that's north of 20, it's like a Walmart parking lot.
Yep.
And it holds the same cars and trucks, just holds more of them. It
Bunch
just
of
holds
shopping carts randomly everywhere.
So those are the nematodes.
So, guys, I grew up near Goshen, Indiana, which has an Amish population, and they have a horse and buggy stall at the Walmart.
Yep.
So watching the horse and buggies come in and the cars and the carts go crazy, it's a riot, an absolute riot. But those type questions, the lighter soils, people just don't think they're as productive. I'm telling you what, they can be just as productive as a heavy soil with higher CECs. Just got to know how to manage them.
Well, and I've heard it several times this spring since it started raining that, well, we've always said if we got ponds, we'll at least know we'll have a crop, But quite frankly, we've had much better yields when we don't have the ponds and it's dry because they're not zero. And then also our nitrogen didn't sit saturated and, either leach or gas off. And it's like, I don't know. I think we're better dry year.
I mean, I've heard everybody complain about drought, for a long time, but it makes me wonder when I hear all these other things that, is it really that bad?
Yeah, and you got a wet piece on your farm, so you want a drought.
I want a drought on mine.
A drought with a couple timely rains.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tanner, back to your question about what challenges we're going to have now that we've had some wet springs. 2 things that are really concerning as of today. The guys that have already got their nitrogen on, been sitting there for a while, pay attention to that throughout the season. Maybe go pull some nitrate samples in the halfway through season and just see what you got to make sure if you need to come back and do a side dress application on corn, know it, because you can't run out of gas. You don't want that early season firing. But yeah, that's one. And then 2 is there's an old saying in our business that says, well, if it gets past May 10th or May 15th, we lose a bushel a day.
Right.
I think that's crap. I don't believe in that anymore. I've seen fantastic corn planted the first week of June that have out-yielded corn planted in late April. So I'm not scared of that. I'm encouraging you farmers. I know you're frustrated this year. You've been sitting around, especially the guys in Illinois and Indiana that have been sitting around wet and waiting, and you're getting nervous. It's okay. Talk to your retailers, talk to your agronomists about technologies to be able to get that crop up, get it going, get it established, hit that architecture stage run, and that way when you get reproduction to maturity, you're in good shape.
So, Gunny, help me understand. I don't know that we ever leave the foundation stage. I've been thinking about it all year I need a better planner because I think I could do better with that. Ooh, I should put drain tile in. Ooh, I should do this. I should do that. And our budgets don't say ooh as much as my mind does. How important is the micronutrient value? Maybe that's the wrong word, Corey. I don't know. The soil. How important is the soil versus and the soil health versus all the other cool things that I could do? Grain bins. I could put tile. I could buy new combines. I could faster, better, quicker to improve ROI.
To me, guys, the soil is probably the most important thing that we deal with. It is fundamental to everything that we do. And look, like I said earlier, if you got low CEC soils, it still can be productive soils. It's just how you manage those soils.
Okay.
So soil fertility is really important. Now, the other thing to soil fertility, guys, I can do everything right to that soil. I can make it healthy. I can pack it with nutrients. But if I don't establish a root system on that plant, whatever crop I'm growing, doesn't matter if it's cotton, rice, soybeans, corn, if I don't establish a root system with root hairs, I can't go after and access what's there. So there's more to it than just that soil, but that's the baseline for everything that we do. You got to get that right. It's imperative.
I need him to come to my auctions every time we sell a low CSR farm. Tell you what, guys, it's exactly the same. It's just how you take care of it.
Yeah, Justin Bruck just said it. We did show you weren't here, Dave, but the flat, square, black, high CSR ground isn't necessarily the best investment. We know it's good. But it's going to bring the highest dollar.
Correct.
The best investment a lot of time is that lower quality piece of ground because it's got so much potential that no one's ever unlocked before.
Well, it's like tall, dark, and handsome, but they're not always the best husband either.
Yeah, sometimes you need a guy with a lot of test weight.
A lot of test weight might be a better husband.
Hey, I'm going to do it better.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
Yep. So
for me, those lower CSR grounds, if you ever tried an organic acid in furrow and put it right around that seminal root system, that first root system that a corn plant puts out of the seed, where it lives through V5 and helps with that ear determination piece, so that yield determination. Guys, I'm telling you, I've seen 22% increases in potassium uptake without ever adding additional potassium in that starter fertilizer. So there's things, if you educate yourself and take the time as a farmer to educate yourself and ask the questions.
Let's roll through a scenario. Say someone an average around here is in the 80 CSR, which is high productivity. Let's say you get down into the 50s or 60s, kind of sandy. And what would someone do differently?
Yeah.
I obviously blanket statement throw, just split up your applications more because you don't have as much parking lot to park in at a certain time.
Corey, that's a big one. I had this conversation with a farmer in Indiana, a very similar situation. They've got a couple farms that have some really light pockets, and it doesn't matter how much 0060 potassium chloride they put out there, they cannot build it.
Yeah.
There are no parking spaces available to be able to build it because it's a low CEC Base saturation tells you how full those parking spaces are.
Yep.
They're full. So they have to, one, accept that you're never going to do it as dry fertilizer.
Yep.
I'm not saying to go away from it 100%, but you're never going to build with dry fertilizer.
Yep.
There are other things that we can do to manage that crop in those farms, and that's making the right timely applications. So for me, on that post-trip herbicide application, going at that V4, V5 time frame is optimum with a foliar potassium, or a product that has foliar potassium in it with the right technology, and then turn around and making a subsequent application at that V10, V12 right in front of that late season demand. Guys, I've seen tremendous results in farmers like, you know what, you're right. We're just taking those dollars we used to throw at it in the soil and moving it over here. Not spending, not investing anymore.
You're allocating it somewhere else.
Reallocating, reinvesting in your yield.
And I think that's where the variable rate technology and seeding and all that kind of stuff, you can really, that's where Dave, your planter technology and your that kind of stuff, like, I don't need to plant as many seeds there. My yield goal is lower there. Mm-hmm. But we're not going for yield. We're going for profitability per acre, really, you know. I don't care whether I grow 150 or 300 bushel corn. I want to make the most per acre.
It's exactly right. And, you know, these extra technologies, so for the farmers that are out there watching this podcast, these extra technologies and these add-ons, these snake oils, right?
Yeah.
And, guys, I'm accused of creating snake oils. When I was in my 20s, I put fertilizer on corn that was this tall. I put same fertilizer on corn as this tall.
Oh, yeah.
All I did is waste this guy's money. I created snake oil, a bad image for a good product.
Yep.
What you need to do is, that's not going to build your baseline yield. Right? You guys know what you can do with normal NPK fertility programs. This is that additional yield. And this investment, right? This is not a cost. This is an investment. It's no different than going to Edward Jones or Morgan Stanley and giving them money expecting a return.
Yeah.
What you want to do is apply this cost against the incremental bushels. Right? If I came to you, Corey, and said, Corey, I need you to invest $10 an acre on this one application, but we typically see 6 bushels back on corn.
Right.
Okay? I just forced you to do the math in your head. I know you're trying to do it right now,
Right.
and you're like,
Yep.
shit, what's
It's
the price
hard
of corn
for him.
right now?
6
So,
times.
That should be.
Yeah.
In my mind, it should pay, any investment I do should pay 3 to 1. At least.
Exactly.
Right? I don't want to break even.
So one thing that we try to do at AgX is when I came here in 2018, we implemented a 4-to-1 strategy. We want a 4-to-1. Even at today's farm gate economics, we want a 4-to-1. Because, you know, if it's 3-to-1, it's still great. Still great
Right.
return, right? But you should never farm to just make your money back.
The amount
You
of times
should
I've heard
make.
someone brag about breaking even is like, well,
why?
Then you lost because you went out there for nothing. you know?
This
Like,
isn't farm for profit. This is farm for practice. Is all this is.
yeah.
So,
That's our happy hour offshoot. Farm for fun.
yeah, farm for fun.
Yeah.
That's it. But, you know, when you do the analytics, Tanner, and you put the investment on those bushels, if I make 6 bushel on $10 investment, the cost per bushel or the investment per bushel is my lowest investment per bushel on any bushel I created on that farm. So, and it's too many times we have companies that come out and say, hey, look, use this product to give you 20 bushels. And there's no such thing. Guys, you should throw those people off your farm. But somebody comes out and says, hey, look, we can incrementally do this and those plays in a football game that move that ball forward. And eventually we can turn and give you 5, 7, 8, 10% yield increases. That adds up in a hurry. And all of a sudden, off of those incremental bushels, we're making more than what we made in our original investment.
Yep.
So,
So some of you mentioned that now we're in the crop all summer long, right? Like we used to not do that, and we are a victim of that. You know, we have a tall boy Hagee sprayer and started spraying fungicide, and my gosh, yeah, it pays to do it. You know, we do wide drops, put nitrogen on late right before tassel. You know, all that kind of stuff. It pays. Do you guys have that kind of product, the fungicide timing product?
yes.
Well?
So our biggest one is that Onward Max, which it pairs with the fungicide application.
Okay.
So it can go right in front of tassel on corn.
So you're still fine with fungicide.
Absolutely.
You don't make the fungicide.
Nope. We
make
let
it
the
work
experts make look, there's great science. Guys, fungicides are not created equal. There's a difference in the premium brands versus some of the generics. But I'll tell you that for us, what we want to do happens at the same time a fungicide goes on. And we want to work on that yield retention. Drop that stress. We want to mobilize nutrients in that source to sink, and we want to tell that plant to photosynthesize, and that's where Onward Max, which like on soybeans, guys, Onward Max is today's economics is less than 2/3 of a bushel investment, and our average by itself with nothing else is 3.9 bushel. So that's over 4-to-1, and it's not earth-shattering. all I can say is that worth it to you on your farm to see, if I made 3.5 bushel profit or 3 1/3 bushels profit.
Right.
If you got 1,000 acres, all of a sudden that adds up.
Adds up a lot, and if you're already making the pass, you're not going out there by itself.
How much of the year does it depend on? Like if we get to where our corn's up and it looks good already, and we think the yields are going to be good, do you get a lot of guys that make decisions mid-season to then it doesn't look as good, now let's try something?
We get a lot of that. And Dave, I did a video last year from Wren Lake, Illinois, which is in very deep south Illinois, which was just hammered with drought last year. And what I did is, with that university, us and Syngenta did a plot where we made multiple applications, and we had a check. We had an early season architecture application with fungicide and our Architect product. We had just a fungicide late season application for the guy that says, "Oh yeah, it looks good. I'm going to do something now." And then we had a combined program and then another check. And what the story was is we had about 12 around. I mean, they were devastated with drought early season, and it was 12 around. Once we made that V4 application, we were able to set more kernels around. We went 14 to 16 around, right? Once we went and the next strip was just a late season. We went back to 12 around because I can't come back to V3 to V5 and set more kernels.
Right.
But we extended the tip. With the Onward Max, what we witnessed is we set 2 and 3 more kernels around on the length of ear, right, which added up to yield, equated into yield. And then we went to combo product, the combo early season, late season. And what we saw is we set another 2 to 4 around. We extended the ear fill that stopped that tip back or reduced the tip back. And then went back to a check, and we were just devastated. Corn that you just farm for insurance.
Yep.
But that's my story in the program is too many times we wait to see what Mother Nature does to invest into our crops. And if we truly manage our crops, we can hit this next inflection point and start getting consistent yield, incremental yield outcomes.
Yep.
Does that come with data? Guys, we just interviewed a company on drones that basically scout, and so that we can have data and pre-knowledge that we might not have seen in the field. Do you see that data being a key decision maker to help you? So
guys, I can inundate people with data. Right, as far as third-party data, I do all my stuff third-party. In-house stuff, there's no value to that. Nobody wants to see your own stuff. So one thing I believe is we show the good, the bad, the ugly. And what I mean by that is we show our learns. And in life, I live my life that there are wins and learns. It's only a loss if you choose not to learn from it. So what I mean by that with data is we've trialed some stuff at the wrong time. And we show you, if you use it the wrong time, it becomes a snake oil. Like Architect, for example, was meant to go in that early season post-trip application, not meant for like a VT application. And vice versa for our Onward Max, meant for late season, not for early season. But there's a flaw, David, in our industry. We put all our eggs in that one basket of just data. I want to see data. Every product that AgX sells, that our competition sells, has a function, right? And it has a job to do. If something else happens or didn't happen, the farmer didn't do something, did that product not do its job? So I like to teach people this is the function of this product, like Architect, for example. It's very visual. Makes a bigger, fatter, wider, longer leaf. Makes a bigger, girthier stalk on corn. It's incredibly visual. You can't see it from the truck at 50 miles an hour. You actually got to get out and be in your fields. But you cut those stalks and you overlay the leaves, you will see that. And I think most of us would tend to agree if we make a bigger plant structure and equip it with the right equipment to accept sunlight with those micronutrients, we're probably going to see a greater outcome in the end. But if it turns out a nasty drought like 1989, then did the product not perform?
Would you agree that you create that larger architecture that you then have to probably continue to feed it right later, like your later applications? You got a bigger greenhouse that's collecting all this.
Yep, right. So you got to manage it, and part of that management is stuff that you did in advance of the stuff that you did in your soil, right? Making sure your soil is healthy, making sure it's got good fertility, and you're feeding it potassium and phosphorus, and you get that nitrogen doesn't run out of gas late season, and so it's a process and it's a plan, right? Putting a plan in place to manage that crop throughout the season.
What I've seen a lot of our yield on the corn side of things come from is kind of like your bean scenario. Like sometimes, we'll only have 14 around, but it's not a nail in your coffin. Like you can still the cobs on those things are tiny, and then the kernels get to be
Yep.
long
The
and
kernel depth is
deep
huge.
and just huge, and they 62 to 64 pound test weight, like heavy stuff. And it's like, where did that yield come from?
Yeah.
You know, because you go out there and you're like, oh man, this ain't very good. You know, like it's not the 250 bushel I wanted. It looks, you know, it's yield checking at 215, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there it is. Like, so like it's not a, you know, call up the mortician, you know, crop's dead type of deal. So
Did you come up with that joke yourself?
no, it's not a joke.
Oh,
Not a joke.
It's real. It's real stuff.
It's not a joke.
is that a profession? Do we
Not
need to get them
smiling.
on as an interview?
Not smiling.
We need a crop,
Crop
mortician.
mortician. Yep.
You might have just started a business.
There we go.
I want to know if you think this year is going to add up to have extra insect pressure. You know, we're just coming out, when this show comes out, we're just coming out of millions and billions of cicadas. Have
Yep.
you seen that?
So we got a 13 and a 17-year cicada this year.
Yeah.
Right, in spots in the Midwest. So guys, I'm no weatherman. If I was a good weatherman, I probably wouldn't be doing this job. I don't think there is a good weatherman. You know, this is certainly conducive to setting the stage to having a late season bug run, and you better pay attention. I live underneath the motto, if I see feeding out there, I'm probably going to be paying real attention and doing something about it. I don't believe in the thresholds that universities have set. I just don't. I think they're bogus. I think they're outdated. I think that leaf tissue matters because that's the nutrients that go into yield and test weight. So I'm one that if I see feeding on soybeans, for example, I want to go smoke those soybeans.
Yeah.
Those
Had a
insects.
very mild winter as well, you know, so they probably had a decent egg laying and survival and all that. And yeah, I think I agree with you on the university side of things, because it's so cheap for an insecticide anymore. Like to have that on that pass, you know, it's way cheaper than any other product that we use. So might as well go get them if you can.
Yeah. Hey, if you're going to be out there, if you're making that pass,
Yep.
it's next to nothing anymore
Yep.
to put that in.
Yep. Well, what'd we miss? Is there any other golden nuggets in here that you're looking at for this year, or products?
So for us, it's about managing that crop, and to us, I don't believe in cookie cutter applications. Right, there are core components to a program. Architect and Onward Max are our two core components. But outside of that, I have lots of questions for farmers. You know, tell me about your soil, tell me about your farming practices, to make those bolt-on recommendations and what matters. The other thing I'd like to just quickly, briefly touch on, guys, is like sugars. This is a big hot topic, and some people go to Sam's Club or Costco and they buy a pound of sugar, and they put a pound of sugar out there, and it's carbon. It's a good energy source. Just to educate a little bit on sugars, a plant uses multiple types of sugars throughout the photosynthetic process.
Right.
Like-
So brown sugar, powdered sugar.
yes, yes. So guys, when it comes to just glucose, that only feeds part of the need. It's like drinking a Red Bull. You get a quick high and then you crash. Plants are the same way. So there's multiple types of oses: sucrose, dextrose, fructose, on down the line, that a plant needs to function. It's not just one type of sugar. So I encourage farmers that are interested in carbon components, be looking at sugar sources, be looking at other humic acid sources that are good carbon complexes to a plant. Skeletal backbone is carbon. For us, it's octane, which is probably our second largest product in our portfolio today. It's multiple sugars plus a biostimulant that tells that plant to make bricks, which we were talking about at lunch, right? So to create sugars inside of a plant naturally, plus that biochemically extracted humic acid is another carbon source that has been a huge product for us. I love carbon at the front of the season and carbon at the end of the season. Right, so planting it at the reproduction time frame with fungicide for the functions that it serves.
How much of we hadn't mentioned carbon yet, but we did an interview with gentlemen on CI scores, carbon intensity scores, and it all goes off of how you actually manage your crop. So what you put on it, what you apply, et cetera, et cetera. How much of that, if you've looked into it, does AgX help with?
Yeah, so for us, I'm not into that carbon intensity score by any means. So we're not going to work with any farmer on that. There are experts like the company you just were with. For us, there's a ratio that's hard to understand in agriculture, and it's a nitrogen to carbon ratio. Yep. We talk nitrogen to sulfur because it's easy. It's 10 to 1 as we generally accept. 10 pounds of nitrogen, pound of sulfur. It's easy to put a number on it. Dave, if I came to you and said, hey, that nitrogen to carbon ratio is important. You ask me what's that number, I can't tell you. There's nobody in this industry that I've met that can tell you that number, because most of our carbon comes from the atmosphere. But that carbon for a plant to metabolize, being the skeletal backbone of every plant is carbon, it's important. So what we do and what I try to do in our formulations is build carbon into every single product that I possibly can. Because it's just a great source to feed that plant, keep it metabolized, and give it an energy source, and let it do its functions. So our definitions of carbon utilization is different than what an intensity person company would be talking about. Yep. No carbon credits here. our carbon credits come in the form of yield in bushels.
Right.
I got you.
In real checks.
In real checks.
Yep. The carbon and nitrogen ratio is important. That's why I said you're going corn on corn, Dave. You need a little bit more nitrogen. You got a lot more carbon from your stalks and all that out there. That's going to take nitrogen away from your plants that are growing now, and got to have a little bit more out there. Type of deal. So, well, before we let you go and I let Tanner go off on his stuff, I know Dave's got some things wrote down. I wanted to ask you, because I asked you at lunch, you got something on your shoulder, that Top Crop.
Yeah.
What's going on? You guys are working with them now?
Yeah, so we're sponsoring Top Crop this year. I'm on several episodes myself that are airing this season. We're actually taking over the presented by sponsorship for the next 3 years with Top Crop. So we've got a good relationship with Corey and Shelby and Dan and the crew there. So
that's the old Corn Warriors, if any was wondering.
Corn Warriors and the Podfather, which I thought was a brilliant name.
Yep. So where can they consume it?
So today it airs on RFD TV. Once it's done, the season is aired, it goes on mainstream media platforms like Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe next year he'll have Farm4Profit on the other shoulder.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm looking forward to having Farm4Profit right here. So
there we go.
here, you guys can see it. So
Hey, I wouldn't mind wearing an AgX logo right on the chest of these
Well,
shirts too.
it works. It's to be able to farm for profit. We're the equals sign.
Yeah.
So you got AgX, and then you got your Top Crop uses AgX to
like
equal.
that.
Yep.
So guys, I love the shirts and I love the meaning of your guys' shirts. I promise you our shirts will not look like that. But I love the fact that you guys wear these and support everybody.
Yeah.
So
Little Tim might want one.
I promise you, Tim's going to watch this. Tim will wear one. He can pull it off. Gunny can't pull that off.
The nerd with the shirt.
Yeah.
The nerd with the shirt.
I like it. Well, Corey, you're going to get to summarize today's show because you got to have the conversation twice, once over lunch and once in the studio.
Boy,
So
I'm not good at this.
Got the best to cover this out. The last question, Gunny, that we ask every one of our guests just for a little bit of fun, and this time it's even more fun than before because I didn't come up with a question. What's the best food you've ever had, and where did you get it from?
So I'm a meat eater. I love beef, and the best steak I've ever had is at St. Elmo's Steakhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ooh. And it's expensive. Now I'll tell you, they also trick you. Your first time, if you ever go in there, there's a shrimp cocktail, and it'll burn your freaking face off if you just dip it and throw it in your mouth. It is the hottest thing you've ever had in your life.
Oh man,
it'll breathe fire.
Yeah, we are.
We're gonna have to go to St. Elmo's.
Yep.
But I love it. It's good stuff.
Now you know why I asked the question. Now we have a list.
Yeah, but we can't go. Most of the time, we got to go to Grandma's house or Mom's house or whatever it is. So we probably should have caveated with, it can't be your mom's.
I don't know.
You want to go to Mama's house?
She cook for us. I don't care.
That's fair.
As long as she's willing to cook, you can say it.
That's fair.
So, yep. There you go.
All right. Well, I guess I got to try to summarize this. So today's show was with Gunny of AgX. Used to be AgXplore.
Yep.
But we're going with AgX now. Mm-hmm. And we are just talking all things agronomy. We got to learn what a biostimulant is, what a PGR is. There's 5 phases that he thinks: foundation, establishment, architecture, reproductive, and maturity. Yep. We learned a lot about the different products that they have. His wires are crossed. We learned that, and that's what drives it. And that's, my wires are probably crossed too. I just don't have to have what'd you call it, a generator.
Yeah, generator.
In my back. And then learned that watch the bug pressure this year could potentially be an issue, and then feed late, probably. You like to feed early and then feed late.
Like us humans, we don't eat just once, right? Crops don't eat just once.
Right.
Corey,
they feed multiple times.
I kind of learned that multiple times. I was going to say multiple passes, multiple times. I kind of take away from it, as well as they're not just a product company. They are a resource and expert company that you can partner with.
I like doing interviews with companies like this because, you've got product to sell, and we talked about the product. That's fine. but you go through retailers. So you're still encouraging the relationship, find that trusted advisor that you work with, and that'll find something that fits your operation.
Right.
We wanted to share, like you said, you wanted to educate. You want to educate the listeners. What are some things we can be watching for? This isn't a sales pitch.
But it's not. It's a 330X is what I heard. So a 3-second speech, a 30-second speech, and the X is the Y.
And you guys have been around since, was it 99?
99, 25 years.
And I knew about them in 2010. They were a competitor of mine of the job that I had, and like legit then. So it's not like, I mean, if like I told you guys at lunch, we get at any point in time we could work with 10 companies that sells biostimulants and biologicals and all this kind of stuff, and so this is big that you guys are here because we believe in you.
Thank
you know,
you.
it's obviously a big deal. You got the education behind it, and not to knock the other guys at all. It's
No,
just,
we'll knock at them, yeah.
but it's just, I mean, it's a lot out there right now. So we got to know the why. We got to ask why.
Yep. I understand the why, guys.
Yep.
Cool.
That's good. Well, Gunny, thanks again for popping up here, spending
fellas.
much time on the road to hang out. Listeners, we appreciate you hanging out with us too. Share this with your friends, family, and neighbors. Even though it's going to make them better farmers too, it's going to make you seem like the better person. But until next time, have a good one.